What is up, everybody? Welcome here to the Debbie Royale YouTube channel. We are back with another Dynasty edition. I really want to hit the Dynasty stuff, and we're going to be looking at Dynasty rookie picks. So, what I did was I came up with, hey, let's talk about what those are valued at. Where are they going? We're going to do some like value actually per player. Like, what are those picks per player? How does that work? And then we're also going to be looking at some real Dynasty trades that have happened to kind of extract value, talk about pick value, talk about where the value's at. So, we can dive into that after the intro. Hit that like and subscribe button, and then we'll dive into the picks right after. All right, so let's talk about where these dynasty picks go, and that's Troy Franklin from Oregon. So he's a 2024 wide receiver. So the idea is like, hey, we've done a few mocks on this channel of picks. So we're talking about each rookie class and where those guys are at. So we kind of give you guys an idea of where those picks are, right? So we know where that is. Now let's start identifying where the value's at, and let's go into it. Now I always have to pull this up because it is my favorite chart. EK Baller made this. If you follow him there on Twitter, if you have a Twitter, and it's perfect. It shows you everything, the cycle of pick and player value. Now, some would argue that there's a little bit off here, but overall, it does a really good job here, and I really appreciate this. So when you're looking at it, what it basically does is it shows you kind of where when should you sell picks and when should you buy picks, right? Now we are in June, so we're looking at that 4-3 mark. So either you sell picks or you're neutral, and so we see a lot of neutral areas up until probably, as you see there, in October, November, when guys are going for it, right? So we're looking at those contenders. They are willing to kind of give off some, their picks for assets. And if you're kind of retooling your roster, that's when you benefit, right? So this is a good chart to go find, copy it, in terms of like, have it, bookmark it, have it there, just so you can see like, hey, when should I be selling picks? Now, there's still values to be had. That's what we're going to be diving into and looking at real trades from it. But this just gives you guys an idea of like where, when generally speaking, where should you go? Now, let's talk about first. So 2024 for 2024 first right now. Here is who's kind of getting valued at the early, the mid, and the late, right? Now, again, value is subjective. It's always subjective to your leagues. And when we're talking about this, to understand this is super flex value, right? 12 team PPR, all the trades that you see are like that. So, like subjective value, your league better than most, right? Now, right now, Devonta Smith, T. Higgins, Jameer Gibbs, they're going for 2024 early first. Now, as far as who they're trying to target in those picks, if you're giving away these assets, probably Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr., right? The two presumptive 101, 102 already. That's you doing this. But you got to be very careful with this because you know what? Picks sometimes don't turn into those picks, right? We've seen that happen before. So, be careful with like having a player in mind with the picks. Always just trade for the value. Now, mid 24 first, what's going on here is Daniel Jones, Tony Pollard, TJ Hawkinson. And in late 2024 first, Kittle, Ridley, and Goff. Now, if you could maybe move Kittle for a first, that's an interesting value. I wouldn't necessarily hate that if you have some, tight ends that kind of back it up there. Ridley, this is the highest I've seen his value right now. And then Goff is an interesting one. Will he get that contract extension? And then you're looking at like Tony Pollard, mid 24 first. Tony's one of those guys. It's probably just a 1-year asset. If you're a contender, I don't mind you holding on to Tony Pollard. But if you can get anywhere from a mid 24 first right now, if you're not contending, you have to do that based on his age, based on him not being with Dallas next year, possibly right after this year, maybe not getting an extension. There's a lot of things that you could be looking at with Pollard, and you should definitely jump on that value. Now, here's some deals. So, CJ Stroud at 24 first for Justin Herbert. I'm going to smash the Justin Herbert side all day, right? So, obviously, there's a rebuilder there with Stroud in the first. Guys going for Herbert, but rookie quarterbacks are no sure thing. Neither of the picks. Justin Herbert is a top 5 dynasty asset in Superflex leagues as a quarterback. That's how you kind of extract that value there, right? Now, another one, 24 first in Gainwell for Tyreek Hill. Essentially, it is the first for Tyreek Hill. That's really what this deal is. And Tyreek Hill has 2 years of elite production probably still on the pipe. Now, he is the hardest guy for me to, rank. You see my rankings on our Patreon below. But the idea is, where does Tyreek, rank in that area? Then you have a 2021 for Nick Chubb. In my opinion, like you go after Chubb right now. I talked about him in my latest Football Guys video. I said, hey, he could be a target. In the video here, hey, he could be a target here. Nick Chubb's one of those guys that if you need a running back and you think that he can kind of get in that 1,300 yards range again, those touchdowns, he's got the volume and usage. You give up a late first for Chubb to go for it. I am all aboard that train. I think that's a really good value play. Now let's go into the second. So we're gonna look at seconds and first on this one. Thirds are it's just too much. projecting. So early seconds right now, Will Levis, Mike Williams, Desmond Ritter. So again, those quarterbacks with question marks. And then Mike Williams, will he have to have surgery? The injury question marks. Mid 24 seconds going Josh Downs, Evan Ingram, and Antonio Gibson. Downs, is pretty much valued all over the place from 112 to 208, 209, 212 in some places. So Downs is an interesting one. Evan Ingram, I think this is it for him, right? So when we're thinking about projection, you're just hoping that he hits. You need a tight end. You're okay giving up a mid-second for him. Antonio Gibson as well. Like, I think there's some talk about him. There's some buzz going about him being that pass catching and Bieniemy's offense, where that looks like. So if you want to get out of Antonio, that mid-second might be where his value is peaking, right? So this just gives you an idea. The whole point of this is to kind of give you an idea where these guys are going. And if you're on either side, if you're a contender or you're a retooler or you just think there's value there, you can see where they're getting value. Now, it doesn't mean your league's going to value them this way, but market's valuing them. Late 24 second right now, Darnell Mooney, Trey McBride, and Brandon Cooks, generally speaking. Now, here's some deals here. 24 second for David Montgomery. Now, all these deals have been done. They're 12 teams, super flex, PPR. All of them have been done recently, right? So we're thinking the last 2 weeks here. 24 second and third for Ridley. So again, he's kind of going for like that late first. And then if you pair maybe a second and third and consolidating those picks for an elite level asset, if you're a contender, could be an option, right? Like thirds are crapshoots. Seconds can be crapshoots. Okay, I'm going to go get Ridley for 2 years and hope that he kind of hits. I understand this deal. I like this deal, then same thing, 24 second and third for David Njoku in a tight end premium leagues. This was a tight end premium deal. Again, I probably don't think I'd give up the picks for David Njoku because I think you could find a tight end. I like Njoku. I think he could step up. But again, if they move on, they get DeAndre Hopkins, these type of things can happen. There's a little bit of uncertainty with David's, upside and the ceiling there. Now, next pick here. So when we're looking at 25 first, now I have to give Jay Stein credit here at the Debbie Royale and at Football Guys. He talks about how, he does all the trade calculators and he goes through all that. And he talks about, he is adamant that 25 first is the easiest and the cheapest thing to buy right now. And I believe him. Like when you're talking about what, you can get for these first and what the value is, they are very cheap. So early 25 first, Josh Jacobs, Cooper Kupp, Travis Etienne. So kind of two older prospects, right? Now, I wouldn't just trade these guys straight up. I'd always try to tier down. So if I got Josh Jacobs, I want a 25 first and a tier down something, right? Something that running back 3 category, maybe that, maybe Antonio Gibson, right? So you're trying to pair something with them so you still get production, but you can capitalize on that value later with the first. Cooper Kupp and Travis Etienne, again, there's question marks there with Kupp's health. Etienne with Bigsby, there's there. Now, mid 25 first. If you can move Deebo Samuel for mid 25 first, that feels like the move. Deebo is a hard person to move right now in those areas. Dameon Pierce, not Damio. Marquise Brown. Late, you have Geno Smith, you have Amari Cooper, Kirk Cousins. So, like, you're looking at 25 first. If you can move on from Geno, Amari, and Kirk, this is the last time, right? Dameon Pierce, again, not Damio, Damian. Leave in the comments. Let me hit that algorithm there. But Dameon Pierce, these guys, this is it for like their peak value. If you can try to get a first and squeeze a first out of there, and you might have to consolidate some stuff, this is it for them, right? Like this is the time to move off of these kind of veteran guys that they won't be getting that. Dameon Pierce will not be giving a first in the middle of the year. I guarantee it, right? Now, when you're looking at kind of what they're going for right now, so here are some deals that are interesting in my opinion. So a 25 first for Godwin. Chris Godwin is one of those guys that I really do want in Dynasty right now because I think he's a value. But did you think that the Bucs are going to have that long-term option at quarterback position? I think that's what you have to ask yourself. Jacoby Myers and Kincaid, so this is tied at premium for a 25 first. So Jacoby's a throw-in. So it's Kincaid for a 25 first. Are you comfortable getting Kincaid there? What is that split? What is that usage going to be? What's that target share going to be for 25 first, right? And Kincaid's one of those guys like, hey, he's going in that 112 to 202 range. But if you can get a first for this, and you're thinking like Drew Aller's going to be there, Singleton, all these guys that we're going to be talking about, Judkins pretty soon, it could be an interesting kind of area. Luther Burton, Everett Stewart. Like there's some talent in that 25 for class. Now, next one's Tyreek Hill for Mixon, Bateman, and a 25 first. Again, if you're going to sell Tyreek Hill, I don't mind this deal. Rashad Bateman, if you think he can kind of step up and be that guy. Joe Mixon, I think, has one more year left, and in a 25 first, right? I don't love this deal. I think for Tyreek, you want to just tear down a little bit, right? Try to get Devonta or something if you can. I know Devonta's kind of a high ask. You might have to pair something back with that, just in dynasty circles. But like, there's some guys out there you might be able to get for Tyreek to kind of tear down a little bit. That might be the move. Now, when we're looking at 20, 25 seconds, Alvin Kamara, Khalil Herbert, Tank Bigsby, they're early going there, especially Kamara with his suspension looming. Herbert, what's that going to look like? Bigsby, what's that going to look like? Mid is Dalton Schultz, Trey McBride, and Damian Harris. And then late, Rashad Penny, Nico Collins, Alan Lazard, right? So when we're looking at these guys, you're not looking at super, talented players, but maybe guys you can pivot off of to kind of collect assets and value, right? Now, as far as deals that have went, 25-second for Mike Williams. I would not buy Mike Williams. If I could probably get a 25-second for Mike Williams, I probably would do it. Just too many injuries, too many questions. Quentin Johnson being there, all those other areas. 25-second for Kadarius Toney. Again, I think I would take the second in this one. With Toney there, you just don't know what you're going to get with him, right? If you thought he's going to play 16, 15 games, he's probably worth the first, right? But we just haven't seen that either with Mike Williams either. And then there's another interesting one: Cedric Tillman, Nico Collins, for Rondale Robinson, a 25-second. Really just depends on what you think of Tillman and Collins. Can they break out, right? Will Tillman be that guy next year, maybe after they move on from DPJ? But we've seen this before where we expect these guys to get moved in free agency or whatever, not re-sign, and then they do, and it screws everybody. So that's the question that you got to kind of go over. But hey, appreciate you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a little different. Dynasty rookie picks. Where do you value them? And again, leave them in the comments. Let me know. Find me on Twitter. At @theboys_22. You can find me and talk to me and say, hey, what would you do this deal? So rookie picks, again, values in that 25 class. There are some ways to kind of consolidate, but don't just go to buy 25 first straight up for an asset. Try to tier down and get some production to where you can plug and play, and not just rebuild with picks, retool with picks and tier down assets. All right, appreciate you guys. Hit that like button before you leave. Hit that sub button before you leave. I'll drop you a little promo here for the Patreon. Hope to see you in it, and I'll see you guys next time.
Have you joined the Devy Royale's Patreon? With 3 tiers to cover your Devy, college football, and Dynasty needs, the Devy Royale has a tier for you. Patrons in the day tier or higher get exclusive access to the rankings database, including consensus combined Devy and Dynasty rankings, each analyst's personal rankings, and separated Devy and Dynasty rankings for every type of fantasy football draft. Patrons in all tiers get access to the incredibly active Discord server, in which our community collectively helps each other win fantasy leagues and has fun in the process. Last but not least, all patrons in the day tier or higher get access to the College Football Manifesto, a more than 300-page document highlighting every Power 5 college football team, Devy players, mock drafts, strategy guides, position battles, and so much more. Head to patreon.com/thedevy Royale to join today.